let's talk about part 3 about what the road to the top looks like. Now there's an upside. Now what we're going to talk about here is we're going to do Bloomberg, Mayor Mike, and the Himalayas. What can they teach you? What can you learn from Bloomberg and the Himalayas about how you get to the top? On one side, I probably shouldn't tell you about what this road looks like, because we're talking about you got to go through to get to, this process. And let's face it, all of us, if we knew exactly what we would have, before we started, all the things we were going to have to go through, we would have said, no way, I'm going to put myself through that. But you get into it hour by hour, day by day, week by week, and then if you look at it, compress it into one or two sentences, it sounds like a nightmare. But it's not that tough. It's tough, but it's not impossible. And if you knew what it was going to lead to, all the goody things that it was going to lead to, you'd do it 1,000 times. So I don't mind telling you about it. So let's get into the mayor, Mayor Mike. We know him as Mayor Mike of New York City. Mayor Mike, New York City mayor, going out now. But when he started as a mid-level, no, actually an entry-level job at Salomon Brothers in the financial services business. He lived in a 300 square foot apartment in New York City. He did his own cooking. Now, his honor now is billionaire, multi-billionaire. He can have homes all over the world, mansions, huge personal staff. In the beginning, he had to do everything for himself. This is what he had to go through. He did his own cooking. He did his own arranging. He built his own shelves. He said his books used to jump up and down because they swayed. He wasn't a very good carpenter. He stayed mad at himself. They were falling down. Every night he had to remove the pillows from his bed, from his couch, to sleep. Get the bed, put the sheets on, and make the bed up, remove the pillows, and then reverse that in the morning so he'd have a couch. How long did he do that? 10 years. That's what he went through. But he was on his way to something else. When he started his own company, he was a one-man band like most entrepreneurs. And they talk about him crawling under, the desks, hooking up wires and doing things like we all do, crazy things. He was a one-man operation. Had to be all things to all people. Had to do everything, phones ringing, fix the computers, run around here, wonder if you're going to, sales operation, marketing, service, everything. That's what Mayor Mike put him through. But now, billionaire. He's got, his public service behind him. Who knows, he wants to be president. And he's not my favorite from a political standpoint, but you got to admire what the guy has done in his life, an achiever. But he had to go through a lot to get to it. Now let's look at the Himalayas. What can you learn about all of these people? They climbed the Himalayas. Himalayas. I don't know if I'm spelling that right. So here's what it is. You have this huge mountain, but it's not a huge mountain. It's a bunch of mountains. You know, you can't even see the top. When you get started, you can't even see where the Himalayas are, where you're going. All you know is it's up there. And so you want to get up here. But do you know the thing about it? Even though you can't see it, you know it's there, you hear about it, you read about it, and if it tickles your imagination, do you know you can start in Death Valley, they say the lowest place on earth, and you can head and start moving, and eventually you can find your way to you can be in you can be in the Antarctic. You can be in Brazil and the Amazon. You can be in the swamps. You can be in New York City. You can be in Cedar Rapids, Iowa. You can be anywhere, but if you get the dream, the light bulb goes on in your mind is, wow, I'd like to climb it. Anybody can climb. So these are lessons about going to the top you can learn about thinking about how do they go about climbing these things. Well, first of all, it starts with the idea. You've got to start with the want to, don't you? Because if you don't want to do it, and most of us don't want to do it, but that want to's got to be more than a thing. It's got to be a burning desire. It's got to eat you up inside. It's got to be the kind of thing you cannot rest until you do it. See, it's got to be beyond, well, it'd be nice, go up there, take some snapshots. No, you're going to have the burning desire if you're going to put yourself through it. Okay, so, let's move that up there, get rid of that. For you to get up to the Himalayas, what do you have to do? You're going to have guides. What they call them, Sherpas? Because you don't know where it is. It's up here. You have a Himalayas. How am I going to go? Which way do I go? You're going to have to prepare. Now, what do you have to prepare? Yourself. You got to get in shape. If you want to go to the top in your profession, you want to be a top in tennis, top in golf, top in real estate, top in financial services, top in music. You're going to have to get the greatest band. You're going to have to get ready. It's a process. You've got to go through things to get to things, right? The process, and so here's the deal. People who get the top in different professions, they start, it doesn't matter where they started. It matters that did they have the burning desire to get to the top. You have, like when it comes to climbing, you have people that are blind climbing the Himalayas. I think that happened last year. And it just matters who has the burning desire, who will put themselves through the process. So you got to prepare yourself, you got to get your equipment, you got to get your support team, because you're going to need some, your support team to go. Ones are going to go with you, ones are going to be on the ground, with that you can telephone back to and stay in contact with. You got to get your supplies. So all of this stuff. So you do your prep, and then you got to get going. Now, depending on where you start in the world, you got to head to where the mountain is. If you want to be the greatest artist in the world, at some point, folks, you got to go where the art is, where the art world is. If you want to be the greatest gymnast, and you've got an 8 or 9 year old little daughter who's got the gym, you got to go to where they train. If you're going to have the greatest, your son or daughter be the next great swimmer, you got to go where they train these swimmers for the Olympics, where they've got the proven track. You've got to go. So that's another lesson. You got to prepare. It starts with want to. From there, you start to prepare. You can't prepare all your life. Life is short. You got to go. You got to start heading towards it. And it may take years. Like I said in that other, my grandfather started as a sharecropper on my mother's side. On my father's side, he was working inside of the transportation, or I guess the bus company up in Camden, New Jersey, building a life for himself. You got to start where you are and start moving up and building and moving up through the ranks, moving into position for where you want to go rather than just wander around. You've got to have a direction to yourself. Now, another thing, this is like moving in position. And so maybe you came, it might be plane, it might be boat, it might be bus. You probably take all of these to get there. But the last thing, when they get in position on these, you see them when they're going to go climb the Himalayas, they have to go on these, carry all their luggage. They have these backpacking caravans of 30, 40, 50, 100 people walking. See, the last thing, there's a certain amount of rubber meeting the road, folks, where you just have to get down and start sweating. And that's what comes. You can ride your buses and your boats and prepare and everything, but it comes time when you're going to go climb the mountain, you got to get out of that truck, because there ain't no truck, no bus that takes you this way. You got to walk your way there, no four-wheeler. And then, so that's what they do. Now what they do, they'll go and they'll walk for, what do they do? A couple of weeks just to get to base camp, to get in position. They've got their guides. And see, it's a matter of stages, because if they're going to climb this mountain, there's probably, it depends on the mountain. There's different routes. You can go this way. You can go straight up. You can go around this way, depending on the weather, the time of year. They weave their way around in there. Lots of different ways to the top. There's no one way to the top of any profession. All you need is one way. So there's lots of ways. We can learn that by watching this. There is stages you've got to go through. You got your stage of getting in position. You get in your base camp. You prepare there. Then you move up to these different camp 2s. Camp, that might be base camp. Then you go to camp 1, camp 2. See, no one gets out in an afternoon and just strolls to the top of the Himalayas. That's a process, folks. You might do that at your neighborhood hill, but this is going to challenge you, test you. And along the way, people fall out. They find out they didn't have that burning desire. Thought they had a burning desire, really didn't have the burning desire. And they work their way up until you get to where it comes time for the final assault. And now it's you against the elements. And that's going to be the way it is in your profession too. It's going to test you, especially the first time you go. You don't know what you're up against. You got to make up your mind that you're going to give it everything you have to see if you're good enough. That's what everybody has to do. That's all of us who have reached any kind of peak in our professional, personal lives. These are the processes we go through. So, lots of ways to the top, stages, and then you get in position and you make your final assault, and you find out if you're good enough, if you're lucky enough, if you can beat the elements, and if you can pull it off. And folks, so there's some things to learn. I'm not going to review them because I'm out of time. Those are some things you can learn about going to the top. You can start anywhere. It starts with a burning desire. You got to go through the process. All of these things are the things, what? That you go through. And eventually it gets you to. But once, as you're getting closer to it, you're starting to get the rewards. You start to see more things. Your excitement builds. Not only it's tougher as you go, you're more worn out, but you get re-energized by the views, the adrenaline, getting closer to the goal. You start feeding off yourself. But once you get to the top, you open up something. You become, like if you were to actually climb the Himalayas, How few people, once you get up there, you find there have been a lot of people that climb it, but just a small fraction of all the people who have ever lived on the earth have ever made it up there, but there's been a lot of people make it up there. You find out it's not impossible. And you find out the people who made it to the top are from all different kind of backgrounds, which shows that you can do it. But when you become one of those elite, special people that have done it, you would open up possibilities in your life you never even thought possible. You didn't think about them because you had all your thoughts on getting there. You just knew it would be worth it. So folks, as you're going through this process, don't begrudge it. Don't worry if it's a grinding grunt and there's no glory in it, because you're going to a special, special place, and it's worth it if you're good enough.